It is almost the end of 2022, and maybe you're listening to this episode and it's already the beginning of 2023. I don't even know what year it is anymore.
I forget that. It's in the 20s.
It's in the 20s, you know? And I think this has been an interesting year because COVID has really been more or less behind us. And I think this holiday season is one of the first in a while where we don't have to think about it all the time. So, I'm excited because I'm going to do a little wrap up with one of my favorite guests of all time. It's been too long since she's been on. Please welcome Dr. Brittany Woolford. Hello.
Hello. Yeah, no, super pumped to be back on. Love just chatting all things like dating and relationships with Abby. So we're excited to dive into this and start off the new year right with your dating life.
Totally. Yeah, we have some funny trends that we were just kind of laughing at. And kind of some of them are surprising, but I don't think anything will like blow your socks off. But that doesn't mean you should stop listening right now.
You want to learn what the trends are and what to do next year, tune in.
Exactly. And some of these will make you feel really good about dating too. So we want to make this a feel good episode and all of that. And, an extended version of Ask a Therapist, which is we've had a little break from for a bit. So we need a long episode.
Okay, good.
So for starters, I know we wanted to talk a little bit more about dating apps and at the end of the year, figuring out, okay, what do I do? Do I, continue swiping and chatting through the holidays, even if I'm not getting a lot of luck there? Brittany, what are your thoughts at this kind of interesting time of year when some people are checked out of dating?
Yeah. So I will say, and I know that there's this like urgency of, oh my gosh, like new year, everyone's going to be on dating apps because it's everyone's resolution to like start dating again. But realistically, what I experience is for the first couple weeks of the new year, everyone is still recuperating from holidays, from all the money they spent, like from getting everything back in gear, from all the like weight loss goals that people are going to try for the first 2 weeks, instead of other fun things. And so one of my biggest suggestions I've been telling all of my clients is fully delete your dating apps that you're using. So that's not just delete the app. That's not just pause your profile. It's completely delete your profile, delete it off there. Don't worry. It still saves your profile. So like you're not taking away all the work you've done before, but it will delete all your past matches, but clean out the cobwebs and start new in 2023. And this also is huge for helping with your dating app algorithm because Abby, I don't know what you hear, but a lot of times people have been on this for like 3 or 5 years. I had someone who had their dating profile for 10 years and they would just put it on pause and they're in relationships. So they had matches from like 10 years ago. And
oh my God.
I'm sure the algorithm was just like completely off. So I don't know if you've heard some of those stories, Abby.
Oh, totally. And, I get a lot of people where it's like they get the same type of person over and over again on the apps, which if it was your type, that would be the correct match. But sometimes it'll be like literally everyone is not anything that I'm looking for, at least physically, because that's all we have on the dating apps. So, I think there definitely is something to deleting, starting fresh. And also, if the dating apps are burning you out, don't go back to them because that's only bringing in more negative energy into your life.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like delete it for a while and see how you feel. If you're like, oh my gosh, I feel so relieved and so much more engaged and present in my like real life activities, then yeah, it sounds like you found your answer of if this is a good dating avenue for you.
Right. Because I think a lot of people struggle with thinking that's the best way, the only way, the biggest way to meet people. And sure, it's the highest volume way for sure. Rather than working with me or, going out and about and doing things that you enjoy and seeing who you meet. But I mean, yes, everyone says dating is a numbers game, but it doesn't have to be a high numbers game. It could be a low numbers game. Maybe you meet 10 people and then one of them sticks. That's all we need.
And I think the biggest thing too with a lot of my clients I've spoke to who are kind of burnt out on online dating, but they don't want to feel like they're not trying, because that feels even worse. Like, I'm not even trying to date. There's no way I'm going to meet anyone. So at least I'll have the dating app, and every once in a while I'll swipe and I'll message someone, and maybe every couple months I'll go on a date, but they're not really using it. They're just kind of putting this buffer there so they can say, well, at least I'm trying. So I think just a clean break from it and really reset is perfect. So this is a great time of year to do it. Come back in, hop back in if you want, mid-January or later. Or again, use this as oh, this is making me feel terrible. Maybe I shouldn't be using it.
Right. And we give you permission. If it feels terrible to you, you're okay. You're still going to meet someone. And if you're worried about it, come talk to one of us, because we'll make you feel better about it. That's our job.
Yeah. Abby now has speed dating events every month, right, Abby?
Well, actually, in the new year, it'll just be 4 throughout the whole year. So you'll really want to capitalize on when those are going down. You don't want to miss out.
Want to gather all of your dating emotional energy and reserve it for those in-person events.
Exactly. And yeah, finding those things where you can connect with people that have similar interests is so key. So don't feel like dating apps are the only way. But you guys know that Brittany and I do have a course that we put together, or if you don't know, you should know. It's called Mindful Swiping, and you can purchase that right on our website at thesocialmm.club. Go to the dating app refresh page. You can purchase that. It's $69 because we're very mature and we wanted to have fun with it. And it's a great thing to check out maybe while you're taking a break. Check that out. Learn some tips. We'll put all that info in the show notes too, so you guys can look, check it out, see what you want to see. And if you have questions about that too, obviously there are many other ways we can help you with your dating apps. I know, I'm doing a photo shoot for one of my clients in a couple weeks so that he can start the new year with some new photos on his dating app. So now is a good time to be kind of thinking about that.
Mm-hmm. Dust off those photos. They obviously haven't been working for you. So let's find some new ones for that new year with just like, the like cliche saying, new year, new you. You're going to need new photos and a new dating app for that. So we'd love to help you with that. And doing something like a course or taking new photos is a way that you can feel like I'm still engaging with dating without having to actually do the online dating, swiping and messaging, which can feel just overwhelming or disheartening.
Exactly. It's like maybe the photo shoot will make you feel really confident and good. And then you're like, oh, I don't even need the apps. I just needed that little confidence boost. Honestly, I see that happen. And I use that for some of my clients as well. So, reach out to us as well. That's all on our website. You could schedule your photo shoot there. It all happens at thesocialmm.club. And again, if you have questions, just let us know. And, excuse me, choking on my own spit there. We'll cut that out.
Love it.
So I wanted to share too, we just did a poll of our following on Instagram. That was talking about, are you dating during the holidays? Are you taking a break? And I wanted to share what we found because I was a little bit surprised. Yeah, right. So two-thirds of our followers said that they are still dating through the holidays. They don't want to take a break, and they're capitalizing on the extra free time that they have. And then 1/3 said, no, I'm taking a break and traveling, or, just not dating. And I thought it would be more that we're taking a break, to be honest.
Yeah. I wonder, I especially know that that week in between Christmas and the New Year, that's just this kind of random weird week. I know as a therapist, everyone's schedules during that week, because usually work is either slow or they're off work. They aren't necessarily engaging in holiday activities. So I think that's definitely a big week where people are like, I have nothing to do.
Right. I feel like I kind of use that gauge too of also when I am busy. If people are wanting to talk to me, I'm like, wow, work must really be slow because you want to talk to me at noon on a Wednesday, and I'm fine with that. But, it is an interesting time too. And, timing is so important in relationships. So kind of how can people factor that in? I think we could chat about this for a little bit of, let's say you're traveling for the holidays. Should you not go on dates before? Should you wait till after? What's the best way to navigate that?
Well, I think we are just talking about this, and I think traveling is a great opportunity to really utilize that like first virtual date. Abby and I were discussing of like, has that gone away with pandemic stuff? But I feel like people really enjoy having that like FaceTime call or a quick Zoom call, where you get to meet the person and talk to them before you invest in like getting all the way dressed up and going out somewhere and spending a lot of money. So I think that, traveling is a great excuse to like throw it out there, but like, hey, I would love to meet up with you. I'm not back in town for a couple weeks. I would love to do a quick FaceTime. I think this makes it so even if you're traveling, you can still keep people engaged with you instead of having to text them all day long. You can do like one or two quick FaceTime calls, which I'm always a fan of. I know I'm not very millennial in that, where it's like, if you're going to send me 10 text messages, I'd rather we just do a 5-minute phone call and get all of that out.
Right?
So I think
you boomer.
I know. When younger me hated phone calls, but now I'm at the point of like, there's too many different avenues of reaching me, of email and messaging and Instagram and texting, and I lose track of all of that. If you really want to get an answer from me, call. And so I feel like that's a good thing with dating as well. If you don't want to be texting, 3 or 4 people for 2 weeks straight, set up a like quick phone call or video call instead.
Right. And that's one of the big dating trends we still wanted to talk about too of 2022, that virtual dates have not gone away. We were been talking with producer Jessie before we got on of that she prefers to do a phone call before dates. And I definitely suggest that for people too, when you haven't met someone in person yet, because you can tell a lot, even from a phone call, of how their voice sounds, how the conversation flows, and you could save yourself a lot of time. So I'm kind of glad that's sticking around. I mean, think about in like 2019, people would be horrified if we were like, do a phone call before the date.
I remember, and this was probably more like even 2018, where I was like, the person I had been chatting with just randomly called me. I'm still not okay with that. Like,
yeah, don't call out of the blue.
Ask permission for your phone. Randomly call someone up, because that can still feel pretty alarming. So,
right. You know what? I had a similar thing happen too. I feel like it was probably around 2018 when I was on my dating app saga, and I was going to dinner with someone that night, and they called me, and I was like horrified.
This person, you see that on your phone, and you're like, what do I do with this?
And this person also used a coupon on the date, which we can talk about too, how people are getting a little more money savvy these days. But I don't know. I still feel like coupons on the first date, I'm not about it.
Yeah. I think I'm okay if you like get a Groupon for like an event or something like that. I think
yes,
like for an activity like beforehand. But yeah, I'm just imagining. I don't know if I'm a frugal, cheap person. I don't know if I've ever like whipped out a coupon at dinner, like a physical coupon.
So yeah, like 2-for-1 entree at Buffalo Wild Wings.
Yeah, I mean, I'm cool with like if we go to happy hour and order off the happy hour menu. That's great.
The sly way.
Like pulling out the coupon, like the actual physical action of having a coupon. I feel like that's a little much.
I know. I totally agree. Yeah. And, obviously, money is a lot different for many people now. And, I'm sure everyone is tired of hearing about inflation. This is a dating podcast. We're not going to talk about that. But obviously the cost of dates has gone up because the cost of everything has gone up. And I wanted to share, there was some interesting data from OkCupid, the only time we will give them a shout out on this podcast, because I say that's where singles go to die. So sorry, if you're on OkCupid, let us help you, because I don't think that's the place you're going to find someone. No. Hopefully I don't get canceled from the match group.
I mean, years ago, yes. Currently, no.
Currently no. So they found in a survey that 54% of respondents said they want to spend $50 or less on the first date. Is this surprising to you at all, Brittany?
I don't think, but I think the hard thing, especially being in a city like Denver, and I know listeners are coming from all over, but Denver's one of the most expensive cities at this point. I remember reading an article that was saying that it was for like Uber and Lyft rides, it was New York and then Denver, like in terms of like the top ones.
Really? I didn't know that.
Like going to Panera or Chipotle at this point is close to $50 for two people. So I absolutely am like all about that. And I feel like that's gonna be pretty limiting and difficult. That's why I think like going for a coffee, going for ice cream, going for like one drink is a great first date.
Right.
You don't
And
need
we
to
always,
spend $100 on every first date.
oh my God. I mean, we always talk about too, like keep your drinks to two anyways on a date because you don't want to have your judgment be clouded.
Absolutely.
I was kind of laughing as we were talking about this $50 or less thing because I did pay for a client's date once. I picked up the tab just as like a nice gesture as one of his first dates that I sent him on and called the restaurant and gave my credit card and all of that. And then of course I get the bill and it was like $250. So you could definitely rack up a good tab on a first date. And especially if you're there for a bit, you're getting drinks, you're getting food. So having like your go-to places in mind, where drinks aren't $15 a pop is probably a good plan.
Yeah. Yeah. Or go to like a time when it is like happy hour or something like that. I think that's a great get like a like appetizer and a drink. I think that's a perfect first date.
Oh, totally. And also you could just do something free. You could go for a walk. As long as it's not freezing cold outside, you're good.
Yeah. Get a hot chocolate, put a little peppermint schnapps in it. It's a holiday date.
Right. And I do wonder too, I was trying to find some numbers on if people are splitting the bill, if, men are picking up the tab, if women are picking up the tab. I couldn't find really anything on that. But from what I see from my people is that in heterosexual opposite sex relationships, men are still picking up the tab. So sorry guys, $50 a date.
Yeah. It's such a weird, interesting thing of, I don't think that like women truly are like, oh my gosh, they have to pick this up or it means something. Yeah. But I think there's such social pressures on women to expect that as well of, I remember my time in Texas where like I was told that women seem desperate if they want to split or pay for the first like date.
Interesting.
And so I think I think both men and women get pressure on both sides. And I will say for all heterosexual women, I say you need to offer to split the bill on the first.
Yes.
They can take it or not, but you need to offer it. And it doesn't mean anything about you or them if they're totally cool with you splitting.
Exactly. If you like them, hopefully you don't write them off just because you split the check. Mm-hmm. So, I had who was I talking to about this? How someone was telling me how on dates they'll say, oh, like, I'll get this one and you can get the next one. Kind of then also opening the door of like, hey, I want to see you again. So you can also use that tactic if you don't want to be paying for every single date.
Yeah. And I will say with working with a lot of heterosexual men, that is a turnoff for them, that they'll tell me of like, oh yeah, we've been on 2 dates and she isn't even like tried to pay in any way. And these are men that like probably would have no problem picking it up and probably would rather that they pay. But it's the fact that the women are not even trying or thankful or like, thanks for the meal. That was so great. Let me get the next one, and not saying that. So I will say that even though there is some social expectations, do not forget that they are still paying $50 for this date.
Right. Maybe more. Who knows?
This is also why I'm a huge fan of food halls for first dates if you're going to get food. Because then it's just like, okay, I'm going to get my stuff from over here. You can get your stuff from over here. We'll sit down. Because then it's just like you pay for your own stuff. You still get to eat a meal together.
Exactly. And you got cool stuff to look at. I am a big fan of the food hall thing. You can walk around, talk about stuff. You're not just staring at each other forever.
Yeah. Always.
And I wanted to talk about some trendy deal breakers from 2022. I know from what I have seen, 2 biggest deal breaker items I always get have to do with smoking cigarettes, and that you don't want to date someone who smokes cigarettes,
yep,
and politics. Would you
Mm.
agree? Do you feel like those are the two most popular?
Well, so I feel like the interesting thing, because I know we're going to talk about physical attraction and statistics around trends with that. But yeah, I feel like that, and then like people say like physical attraction is a piece that's really important to them,
Yeah.
which I think again is like socialized into us, and people are actually usually happier when that's not the top priority. But yes, yeah, I think politics and smoking is a really difficult thing to get around when you have someone who's very different from you with that. I think, Abby, let me know your experience, but typically people have no problem with other people vaping now. It's just that only if they have like physical cigarettes because of the smoke.
I think it totally depends. I get some people where it's like smoking cigarettes and vaping are both out. But I do think with like the maybe like 33 and under, no one cares
Yeah.
about vaping from what I have seen. But older, they're like, I don't know about that.
Yeah. Well, and I wonder too, because especially older than that, like there was so much that came out around like the health effects of smoking um and then there's people who are annoying vapors, right? Who like do it in a car and like have tons of smoke and like do it every, couple minutes or do it inside and have like weird smelling vape smoke. And so I think there's a way to do it with some etiquette and there's some annoying vaping too.
Right. But yeah, definitely a common one that I see. And according to this study, it's called Singles in America. They release it at the end of every year, and we get to learn all kinds of things about single people. And obviously, we nerd out on this shit, but hopefully, you guys listening do too. So,
Absolutely.
politics was still one of the biggest deal breakers they found. And so, being a Republican was a deal breaker for 33% of singles, while being a Democrat is a deal breaker for 23% of singles. So, I mean, different, but about even on both sides. And then for perspective, too, in 2017, the Republican number was 11% and the Democrat number was 6%. So
Yeah.
this has become, as we all know and are aware of, like an even bigger and divisive issue in dating.
Absolutely. And I think the hard thing is what we all learned in like grade school math, right? Is that most all things in human life happen on like what's called like parabola, right? We're getting totally back into your
Oh, whoa, parabolas.
like high school trauma math days, hearing even that word. But what it means is that most people, 95% of people fall in the middle on everything. That all matter, on Earth falls in the middle on everything. But all we see in the media in order to get ratings are the 2.5% ends of the extremes. And I think it pushes everyone, and especially just a lot of the polarizing topics lately have pushed people into these like far reaching corners when really if we have a deep conversation about philosophical beliefs with someone, there's probably a lot more that you align on than you don't align on, which is
Yeah.
tough in the like world that we're in right now.
Because right now it's like, okay, I put you in this Republican box, this Democrat box, this Trumper box, this Bernie box, whatever it is. And then I make all these assumptions about what you believe, when realistically, probably none of us fit into any box that aligns with any political party. And it's probably
Yeah.
why this is also messed up because, it's just like you said, those extremes are what people are focusing on.
Yeah.
So, I think a lot of people think of like when they're talking through the thought process of swiping, they're like, oh, well, if I see liberal, no, like I'm swiping left. Or if I see conservative, no, like I can't even be around that. So, I don't know if this is going to change anytime soon, sadly, but the light in the tunnel at the end of all of this is that I do find, like you said, majority of people are like, I can see other people's views, but there is one issue where I do feel like people are so close-minded, which is fine because we all are entitled to our opinions. And it has to do with the overturning of Roe v. Wade, where that has been something that I talk about with every single person. because it really is that important. You're not really in a gray area usually on that issue, from what I've noticed.
Yeah, you're usually one way or the other, pretty black and white. And it's a huge, really big, I'm not even going to dive down the rabbit hole with that, but really big thing that happens in the world of politics. And especially for single people, something that can really directly impact them and their sex lives.
Totally. And we have another fun number for those of you who like numbers. And I know there are probably a lot of engineer-minded people listening to this podcast, that in that same Singles in America survey, 78% of singles of reproductive age said that Roe v. Wade decision changed their sex life. So it totally makes sense that this is on people's minds, and not aligning with someone on this issue can obviously cause some bigger life problems that are very long term.
Yeah. And I'm game for people with uteruses not being the only people in charge of birth control. So I think that trend for vasectomy should be going up, up, up.
Exactly. Yeah. Actually, I run into a decent amount of people, again, like when I'm talking to people who have had vasectomies, they're like, hey, I know I don't want kids. And like, that's fine, because maybe you don't want to risk it and you don't want to think about that. And, if anything, I hope that, well, obviously, I'm not a fan that women don't have the choice over what to do with their own bodies. I'm glad that it's opened up the conversation, hopefully with people who are going to be physically intimate and have sex, that you talk about this stuff maybe before that even happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially again in heterosexual relationships, that I think a lot of men make assumptions about birth control without actually asking women what's going on. And I know definitely myself, and having a lot of friends in their 30s, there's a lot of ways that birth control has negatively impacted women who, in our generation have probably been on it for a good 15 years. And there's a lot of women I know that are opting out of being on hormonal birth control and seeking other types of methods of birth control. And so it should not always just be assumed. And I'll also add, vasectomies are pretty easily reversible. So even if you do want kids, but you're like, not in this season, definitely doable.
And we will put an affiliate code below for our vasectomy guide. Just kidding. We should get one of those. That'd be a great referral.
Get some calls.
No, but in all seriousness, I don't mean to make light of this topic, but it was a good opportunity for a vasectomy kind of joke. I think that it's good to have, Brittany and I are always talking about, like, communicate everything, have these conversations, and take it as a red flag if maybe you can't communicate about these things that are important. So, and again, don't make assumptions about someone's political views, I think, just because of what it says on their profile. Obviously that's your prerogative, but I will think even someone who says liberal, conservative, etc., there's a gray area with a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. I will add the caveat that I know I've had a lot of people mention that maybe pieces of their identity and like traumatic experiences that have been connected with politics and political ideals, may have to protect themselves a little bit differently with that. So also want to, share that there is some reason behind some people being more black and white around that, just based on their own identities. And like, again, I think we should give more space and grace towards like actually learning about someone and not just a label.
Right. It is true. And also, just don't put on your profile, like, if your ex don't talk to me, flip it to the positive and say what you do want.
Absolutely. Because everyone wants someone who's positive and optimistic.
Exactly.
Or negative.
There's some free tips from the course. You will get more of that if you go to the Mindful Swiping course.
Well, teasers.
What was that?
Some little teasers.
Oh, yeah. Stay tuned. Don't want to miss it. So, want to go through a couple other of these fun statistics, and we'll share this with you guys in terms of the dating trends of the 2022. This one was interesting too. So this one's from eHarmony, that people's top dating priorities are finding someone, number one, they can be their full self with, number two, they have a good friendship with, and number three, they can have fun with.
Love it.
Which I love. Good for you guys, single people out there.
Great. I know the one thing that we wanted to make sure we highlighted is physical attraction. Not up there.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's not, someone they can have sex with or, anything like that. It's like the number one thing, someone you can be your full self.
Full self. Love that. I also feel like you should definitely take these things as what you should include in your dating profile. I will allow you to be your full self. Done. When's our first date?
Right. There you go. Everyone's going to put that in their profile now after they heard this episode.
I know. Well, good.
I know. And kind of along that,
those are wonderful. Oh, I said those are wonderful things. I think our brain was going to the same place, but go ahead.
Yeah, this goes along with another trend we were talking about before this, about how people are being more vulnerable. They want to have deeper conversations. I think the pandemic kind of started this trend where we were like, oh my God, if I have to do small talk on another Zoom happy hour, I might just, I don't know what. So this Singles in America study we're back to now, where people are talking about this like triple threat they're looking for of people who have gone to therapy, who are engaging in self-care and are emotionally mature. I mean, come on, you want to be your full self, but then you also want to have those things? I mean, people are evolved as hell.
Love it. Love it. I think also, we know that the pandemic brought a lot of divorce and a lot of breakups. And I think people realized once all the distractions of life weren't there, that they didn't really like the person they were next to, or they didn't know themselves enough. They had slowed down enough to know themselves well enough to know that they didn't really fit with that person anymore. So I think we're getting a lot of people that went through divorces or breakups during that time that are just like, if I had to be stuck home alone with this person for a couple weeks at a time, I do not want this to be someone that I can't be vulnerable and deep and connected with.
Right. And I love that people are prioritizing that. And they're also prioritizing their own mental health too, in that it said, 1.6 million users on OkCupid said mental health is as important as physical health. So I'm sure your therapist's heart is so full after hearing that.
I think this is definitely true for both men and women, no matter their sexual preferences. All of them say that it's almost a deal breaker if people haven't been to therapy and don't know their own stuff, because our stuff comes up. Even if we, don't have a lot of baggage or issues that we've dealt with when we were younger and past dating relationships, we still have our own stuff. And especially if we've had more eventful dating lives or some more difficult, times growing up, we have stuff, and it's not bad. It doesn't mean you're broken. It just means maybe take a second and just reflect and be aware of that before trying to join your stuff with someone else's stuff.
The joining of all the stuffs. Make sure that stuff is in order. And if you haven't reached out to Brittany yet to get your stuff in order, you should do that.
Love to help you organize your stuff.
Give us the quick shameless plug, and then we'll have one fun last information to end on.
Perfect. Yeah. So we at Lone Wolf do everything from never having dated all the way through the spectrum of divorce and all of the depression, anxiety, sexual functioning, everything that happens on that spectrum. We love working with people figuring out dating for the first time, or people who maybe just went through a breakup or divorce and still figuring that out and then want to jump into dating. A lot of people who call are like, I've started dating someone I like and I don't want to mess it up. Please help. Love getting that call. So if you're in any of those spaces, please feel free to reach out. We'd love to support you.
Awesome. And where can they reach you?
Yeah, so you can find us on Instagram at Lone Wolf Psych, or if not, you can Google or look up our website that is Lone Wolf Psychological Services.
Awesome. We'll put that in the show notes too. And my tease to this, honestly, our favorite statistic that we found from the Singles in America survey, drumroll, is that almost half of singles have fallen in love with someone they were not initially attracted to, and that's the highest it's been in a decade. Hopefully everyone heard that.
This is amazing. This is perfect. Especially in the era of like Instagram perfect relationships, right? That people are saying like, hey, I actually want someone who I like their soul and their personality, and I don't have to be initially sparks flying, want to have sex with them the first second you see them type of attraction.
And this number is not specific to men or women from what I could find, because I feel like some men might argue with me differently. But it just goes to show, like, give that person a second date unless they did something horrendously wrong or did all the red flags, because that attraction can build. I mean, being attracted to a complete stranger, when you say it out loud, seems kind of weird. I mean, you might have an inkling, but I just think keep this in mind when you're on dates, that people can totally surprise you.
Absolutely. I don't know how many times Abby and I have told people, don't chase the spark. Don't do it. Life-altering chemistry that's not healthy. It's not really what's going to create lifelong love and connection. And so I'm glad that there's some statistics to help us bolster that idea to people. Hey, look, this is actually statistically occurring more, that people are valuing that connection. And it's not that you aren't going to be attracted to the person. We don't want you to be in a relationship with someone you're not attracted to. It's that give that some time to grow, or don't allow a first date when you're nervous, they're nervous, dating is uncomfortable and awkward, define the whole rest of that relationship.
Oh, literally the best thing to end this episode on. I feel like if you didn't hear anything else, that sentence, I love it. That is the take-home message. And I think, going into a new year, we just want to remind everybody that you're good. There's so many pressures of, oh my God, it's a new year, new me, lose weight, date someone, find a new job, insert thing here. Yeah. Don't feel like you got to change your whole life just because it's a new year. It's really just like the next day, if you think about it.
Yep. Absolutely. Perfect.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Brittany, for going through some of these dating trends with me. I can't think of a more perfect person to dissect all of this with. Excited for more to come in 2023, and Happy New Year, everybody.
Yeah, and Happy New Year to you, Abby. Always love being on here, and thanks for sharing some really great, fun, and enlightening statistics.
Awesome. Until next time.